Freedom, freedom, freedom. To be honest, I'm getting a bit tired of people who treat freedom like a sacred slogan.
American listening to this, you'll find that idea shocking. But the reality is, the freedom that you hold most dear in your heart are not the things other people even want.
I travel a lot, both in China and worldwide. I value personal freedom and enjoy it every day. I want freedom too, the freedom to walk alone at midnight without fearing for my safety, the freedom to know that public transport will run normally and not shut down frequently because of strikes, the freedom to live in a stable society that isn't constantly tearing itself apart. That, to me, is also freedom. Around the world, countries built purely on individualism are the minority. Most societies, including China, are shaped by collective values. So, when you speak of freedom, I understand and respect that, but I do think shouting freedom louder doesn't make it more right. And when freedom loses balance, it stops being freedom and starts becoming chaos. I'm Yuan, a Chinese founder and scholar unpacking how this country and the world really works. Check my bio page for more. Thank you.
So not everyone wants your freedom because freedom isn't universal. And if you're an American listening to this, you'll find that idea shocking. But the reality is, the freedom that you hold most dear in your heart are not the things other people even want. And I suspect that you do not want some of the freedoms that others hold dear to their heart. So in the US and much of the West, freedom is treated like a switch. Either have it or you don't. Some countries are free and others are not. But of course, it's not that simple. Freedom means different things in different cultures because what you call freedom is what your culture has told you it is. It is not a universal idea. And there's more about this today on my Substack at culturalperspective.com. So philosopher Isaiah Berlin described two types of freedom, the freedom to and the freedom from. Freedom to is what Americans usually mean, the freedom to speak, to act, to choose, to do whatever you want, the power to decide your own path. And it fits individualistic, achievement-oriented mastery cultures. Freedom from is what many collectivist societies value. It's the freedom from crime, from hunger, from chaos. It's the assurance that life is secure and stable, even if some personal freedoms are limited. It fits cultures that value harmony, protection, and responsibility for others.
Because Americans really want to just push their ideology on everybody else, and it's like, girl, that's just not how we roll. And he explained in this video the freedom to versus the freedom from. And in America, freedom is the freedom to do this, the freedom to do that, because it's a very individualistic society. Whereas in China, it's a freedom from this and that, freedom from this and that, where it's a collectivist society, and it's been a collectivist society for the last 5,000 years. So it's like the freedom from hunger, the freedom from homelessness. Freedom here means stability, freedom from chaos. America's perspective of freedom is just a fallacy. I've said this in multiple videos. I've said this where I'm like, yeah, you can criticize the government. And I've said this also. I don't think in China you cannot criticize the government. I don't believe that. I've asked hundreds at this point, maybe, several dozens of people at least. How do they view this type of stuff? When they hear, oh, China has no rights, they have no this, they have no that, they're like, what? They're like, what? That don't make no sense. They don't even know what I'm talking about. They don't even know what I'm talking about. And I think propaganda, anti-China propaganda has gotten so visceral that the way you view the Chinese people is like there's some weak gazelle. And the government here is just this huge lion. But that's not the case at all. At all. And I'm going to try to explain it the best I can in this video and how it works here. So I've mentioned in other videos, but I'll say it again. It's like the core of China. And mind you, I'm not Chinese. I've just been here for 15 years, studying the language, studying the culture, studying making friends, having some boyfriends. I know that's right. So, like, what do I know? Okay, what do I know? I've just only been here for 15 years and speak the language and all that stuff like that. So I really think, like, I've seen people on the CNNs and on the MSNBCs and on the Fox News and on the talking about they China experts. Why can't I be? I am. Anyway, the core is the mandate of heaven, right? Tianming. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. The mandate of heaven will always exist in China. It's been thousands of years of that mandate of heaven. And the mandate of heaven basically is just talking about, like, if the government ain't doing right by us, we will overthrow them regardless. Period. They got to do right by us for us to conform. And it might take a little bit of time, right? It might take a little bit of time. But at the same time, this is what gives the people their power. This whole ideology, that's what it's built on. It's built on this foundation of the mandate of heaven. Some people might argue, oh, that mandate of heaven doesn't exist today with the Communist Party. It does. It absolutely does. Because that's the core, that's the blueprint, that's the nucleus, you know? And if the Chinese Communist Party is not doing right by the people will revolt. But they will. They absolutely will. And, like, you know, the things that, the negative things we see about China is stuff that happened like fucking 60 years ago. People, like, every time I see in my comments, you know, and not just my comments actually, because, like, I don't have that many viewers and followers, but I see on other people's comments, you know, like the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward and stuff like that. And I'm like, this happened like 60 years ago. 60 fucking years ago. Like, you know, even more. Even more, actually. That's maybe 70. Like, no one's in America, they're not looking at the modern day lens of China. And I feel like they're doing themselves a disservice, because I'm like, you're not analyzing the current pathway or the current situation, circumstance of China. You're just looking at shit, mistakes. And the thing is, like, China or the Chinese government have admitted mistakes. We get none of that from America. We don't get no fucking mistakes admitted, ever. They never sit back and say, oh, sorry for slavery, sorry for Jim Crow, sorry for, you know, manifest destiny, sorry for this, sorry for that. They don't do none of that shit. In China, they will fucking apologize and be like, my bad. But and not only that, but I feel like the intent is never on some malice, you know? It is like genuine mistakes. Like, you can even look at zero COVID as an example. Like, y'all think Chinese people have no fucking power? Once zero COVID came to a point where they were like, we can't take this shit no more, the people took to the streets, policy was changed. So it just shows the government really has the best interest of their people in mind. You know, they're not just trying to, you know, whether it's for, because I've seen this so many times where people are like, oh, are they doing it at the goodness of their heart, or doesn't fucking matter. Like, they did it. They made the change. Once something proved to be not working to the extent where the people were over it, that's when they said, okay, our bad. We're not going to do that no more. Sorry for that. And that's when I'm like, who really has no power? Americans, y'all can, not y'all, I'll say we, because I am American, can say what they want about the government. They can go to a poll, even though Chinese people, they have say in their governance. They do. It's just not in the same way as going to a poll every 4 years and checking a fucking box. Anyway, like, the government here is really about the betterment of the whole nation and the betterment of the world at large. Honestly, I really feel like that. Like, I'm not just trying to be pro-China. I'm not pro-China just because it's a trend or it's something to do. Like, I genuinely feel this way because it's something that I have observed with my own eye, with my third eye, okay? And I've lived in America, and I'm from America, and I observe America, and I'm like, they don't give a fuck their people. Y'all can protest. 7 million people can protest. If 7 million people protested in China, I don't care where it is, they can easily have 7 million people because it's a 1.4 billion people population. They could easily have 7 million people hit the streets real quick. If they had hit the streets the way Americans did for the No Kings protest a week or so ago, shit would have changed. The Chinese Communist Party, people, whatever, they would have been like, we're gonna have to rewrite something, we're gonna do something, because we can't have this. We want to stay in power because the mandate of heaven calls. We're here, but the mandate of heaven said we will lose that mandate if we keep doing whatever the fuck we doing. We've seen nothing but maybe very ambitious policies, and then also policy changes when they don't work. Where is that in America? I'll wait.
If you are American, I'm sure you have seen your politicians or in news or even in movie, they're talking about other countries try to destroy our democracy, something like that, acting like a paranoia Karen. I was wondering why they keep doing that. Now I understand, because if you know the real Communist Party of China or the Socialism Society of China, you don't want that bullshit democracy anymore. Just like I saw this white guy lecturing other Americans, like, you didn't pay much tax compared to what you get from America. You got a civilized society. You got a country with no invasion, something like that. If you only see inside America and compare to the country invaded by United States, and he sounds right. But if you compare to China, compare to the communism or socialism, whatever you want to call it, you will see what you get and what you pay is crap, trash. Your infrastructure, your healthcare system, all this stuff, what you pay and what you get is completely trash. Because in socialism China, we pay so little bit tax, but our infrastructure, healthcare, all these things you can think of, is way better compared to the United States.
So there's this guy in Shenzhen, people call him ruler guy or tape measuring guy. He's just a regular guy who spends some of his time of the day walking through the city, measuring things, using his measuring tape, like slopes, berries, and manholes. When he finds something wrong, design issues, he posts a short video on Chinese TikTok. There's no drama, no rant. He just shows the problem, name the spot, and upload it. And here's when it gets interesting. Every time he posts, the government reacts right away. They fix the road, adjust the berry, trim the tree. Sometimes it is get done in the same day. People call it Shenzhen speed. Story like this blow up on Chinese internet, went viral. Even the state media picked it up. China's Daily, CCTV, Xinhua all ran the story. And in China, that always means something. It means the system is sending a signal to the rest of the country. You see, Shenzhen is not just any city, right? If we know that, 40 years ago, it was a fishing town. Today, it's China's tech hub. Huawei, Tencent, all based there. It's one of the most advanced city in the world. So when the biggest media outlet says, look at Shenzhen, what they really say is, this is the model, and other cities should take note, should respond fast, and should serve the people. Now, here's the bigger point. I know some of you guys probably curious. In China, the local officials, they don't move up by giving speeches or getting money from donors, right? They move up by result, by how well they serve the public. They have a performance record. If they deliver and make people happy, they rise. If they don't, they stay where they are, or they done. Shenzhen now has a digital platform that processes over 10,000 citizens' reports a day, Average response time is about a minute. They call it Agile governance. It's data, AI, coordination, accountability. Everything work together. For my American and Canadian friends and audience in here, when you watch TV, the media always talk about Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, all this kind of thing. The media like to play blame games. They push outrage because it sells ads. But end of the day, that kind of rage baiting tears society apart. And on Chinese media, they always pitching unity and always talk about serve the people. It creates a positive energy for the society instead of divide. The US definitely can use some of that, but it doesn't sell ads, so sorry. Usually videos like this comes with full article with more context, and it's on my Substack, link in bio, or visit grumpychineseguy.com. Thank you for all the following and the subscriptions. You guys keep me going, and thank you.
What does democracy look like in China? Many people think China doesn't have democracy, but here's the thing. Chinese-style democracy isn't just about voting. It's about getting things done, solving real problems. In China, citizens can report problems directly to the government. Each city has a hotline, 12345, where people can call to get feedback, make complaints, or suggest changes. The system will automatically send the issue to the right department, and the officials are required to respond. So maybe Chinese-style democracy doesn't look the same as in the West. It doesn't mean China isn't democratic. Just share today's latest update from China. I'm Kitty Tang, bringing you more perspective from the East. Talk to you later.
Enough of the nonsense and propaganda. Here's how the Chinese government really works. Imagine there's a pollution problem in some Chinese city. The air gets thick, complaints start coming in. And yes, people in China complain to the government when things don't work. There is a formal system for this so that the government will work. So now what we in the West would call the mayor or the local council has to take action, or they lose their jobs. And this is one of the many reasons why the Chinese system works. And there's a full article on this today on my Substack, culturalperspective.com. So here's the abbreviated version. Political leaders have to take action when there's a problem. The local secretary is responsible for results. Their performance and whether they keep their job or not, or get promoted, is based on, in this case, clean air. So they launch inspections, set new targets, and report progress. They take action. Everything they do is recorded, compared, and reviewed. Those reports move up through the system, getting to the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, where specialists and academics analyze the data, review costs, methods, and outcomes, and give recommendations that go to the National People's Congress, where legislatures align the proposals with national plans. There's nothing ad hoc here. Everything stays consistent and works together. So from there, the Central Committee studies the findings from multiple provinces, combining local results into national priorities. If the policy fits long-term goals, the Politburo and its standing committee approve it. The State Council then turns that decision into law. Now, in this case, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment receives clear targets: reduce emissions, improve air quality, and modernize industry. Provincial governments get those instructions, and implementation begins. And the changes that take place aren't politically motivated. They're not based on what's popular or just doing the opposite what the opposing political party proposes. Those changes are based on facts, evidence, data, and analysis by experts. So once the policies are implemented, the Central Commission for Discipline checks every stage. They audit funds, they verify the data, investigate any misconduct. The goal isn't punishment. It is to make sure that the problem gets fixed, to keep the system honest, predictable, and moving forward. It is a totally different model than what's used in the West, and it works. And it works in China very much because it fits with the Chinese cultural perspective of collectivism, long-term planning, and harmony. And because it's based on the Chinese cultural perspective, it may not work well in the West, which is a different cultural perspective. So given this, do you think this type of system would work in Western nations? Let us know in the comments.
China builds trains fast, USA builds tariffs faster. Guess which one actually moves people?
When you grow up being told your country is the greatest in the world, it takes leaving sometimes to realize maybe It never was. At least, not for everyone. So I've spent the last couple of years peeling back what I was taught. The idea that America is this shining example of freedom and opportunity. And I now get to see it with the distance by living abroad. And I just keep thinking, how did we get here? I have friends in the States whose spouses are still showing up for their government jobs, but they aren't getting paid because the government is shut down. And why? Because of political games. Because certain leaders would rather hold the country hostage than come to the table and protect people's access to healthcare. And this isn't just numbers on a screen. It's families missing paychecks. It's people losing healthcare. It's kids going hungry because SNAP benefits are frozen. And still, there are folks defending the ones causing it because they've been told who to blame, because they can't see how deep the manipulation runs. And I know there are good people with good intentions. I have relationships with them, and they have bought into this manipulation 100%. I don't doubt that their hearts started out in the right place, but at this point, it is willful ignorance. All you have to do is search beyond one network, and we all know which network that is, beyond one echo chamber, and the truth is right there. The facts are right there. The rest of the world can see it clearly because we're not being fed the same filtered version of reality every day. And what infuriates me is that so many of the same people claim that they're doing this in the name of faith. They say they're pro-life. They say they're Christian. But how can you claim to be pro-life when people are going to go hungry, when families can't afford health care, when the most vulnerable are left behind? Jesus fed the hungry. Jesus healed the sick. He didn't flip tables of the outcasts or the immigrants. He was an immigrant. He embraced them. He flipped the tables of the ones inside the temple who were exploiting faith for profit, who used God's name to manipulate people's devotion for their own gain. Sound familiar? It's okay to get it wrong once, to believe in someone who said all the right things, but to keep backing that same person, that same party, while everything around you burns, while people are getting hurt, while people are suffering because of their actions, that's not loyalty. That's blindness. And one day, the next generations are going to read about this time and wonder how so many good people stood by and let it happen. My heart hurts for my country.
I'm glad you watched this extent. Thank you so much for being here. This compilation has been so enlightening. For some reasons, collective ideologies resonate well with me. They sit well with me. And I didn't know it can get this deep. So I am invested. I don't know how you find this compilation. It's been eye-opening, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Let's continue learning. Like the video for recommendations, subscribe if you're new here, and also share thoughts in the comment section. And let's have a good interaction. I appreciate you.